those units are going to get serviced. They should be serviced. That'll be the rules next year that they will be required, not just our rule, but it'll be state rule that they will be required. So, any questions about hydraulically loading these aerobic treatment units, or not hydraulically loading these units? And the biggest thing is, if we have on-site leaching, that's where you can use a box. If you have a multi-zone valve, that's when you're going to have a pump tank. So put your water directly in the pump tank. Add the dye to that. Add more dye to that, so you can actually see the dye if it blows out the surface, or if it's somebody added a cheater pipe later on. So hydraulically load the rest of your 120 gallons, 180 gallons, whatever you're running, in the lift station, not in through the house. If it's a discharging system, there's really no need to run the full 180 gallons. I assume it's.
I don't.
Just make sure the pump is running.
Just make sure, make sure that pump kicks on. Make sure you see the flow of water from the house, through that unit. But there's really no need to actually put. So if I see that's a discharge, an MPDS system or a pre-2007 system, and it discharges, you don't need to slug 180 gallons through there. I want to make sure that you see it all the way. Describe it if you have to. I want to see that you see the discharge point, that you saw a dye, that it went where it was at. Trees didn't destroy it in the meantime. Somebody installing an irrigation system through their yard didn't destroy that pump line. We've had some where somebody actually, it was last year, where somebody, it was with a distribution box, but they had, the pump line got disturbed when they graded to put a big flower bed in. The pump line eventually, it collected into a drain pipe that went to a pond, a decorative pond that they had. So you never know what happens after we leave the site. I mean, somebody can grade, put a nice big flower bed in, and that pump line got broke, pulled out of the box, and in a totally different section of the, where it should have gone, never should have. So if the discharging system, you don't need to run the full 180 gallons. I want to see that the water does flow from the house, that there's no cracks in between there and the tank, and also from the tank, or from the end of the tank to the street, storm drain, wherever it goes. We've seen some where it's an old jet that the line between the upflow filter and the street was broke, and actually we saw a dye in the footer cross of the house. It ran alongside the house, and over time that water was just, I guess, recirculating. It was showing up inside the lift stations inside the sump. So that's why we would need to make sure we run dye, through the entire system, so we find those cracks and broken pipes.
What are we looking for in the inside the upflow filter or the crash trap? What should they look like? And what should they look like for?
Upflow filter and
You should be able to discern the single gravels that are in that. If that upflow filter is a blanket of black and gray.
Is that supposed to be replaced periodically or flushed out?
Flushed out. Yeah.
flushed out. It should be clean.
Actually, JET has online an inspection checklist, and they specifically spell out how to maintain and inspect upflow filters. Yeah, so it'll give you a really good idea how it works.
And we have that link on our sewage page on the right-hand side. We have a link to the aerators there, and so you could check out the different brands. Some are a little bit better than others as far as online information, but they are on our sewage page as links.
Yeah, I mean, and upflow filters is a good point. Sometimes we see upflow filters that have not been maintained at all. You see jets that haven't been maintained. These old jets. When you look at an upflow filter, make sure you see, if you're not sure what it's supposed to look like ahead of time, go on, I'm sure, Jet's website or somebody that provides those. If you haven't seen a new one, make sure you do, because there should be baffles in there. It should come in, go down, then come up the outside, and there's usually a trough in the middle that it overflows into. Weirs, yeah, a weir that it rolls over into and then goes out. Usually when you go into one that hasn't been maintained, you walk in, it's coming in and just going right on top of the gravel, going right out the weir and out. It's not even coming through that gravel media that's supposed to be in there. So if you see that, that's a nuisance. That's a component that is not functioning like it's designed to. That's a nuisance, and that needs to be replaced. We still replace those. That does require a permit. It's a tank replacement. It's alteration, $200. But that does need to be fixed. So if you do, like I said, look at these things. I mean, we do go out occasionally and check. Some inspectors that give me something with an upflow filter and say it's okay. We go out again just to make sure that they see what we see. I've seen one here a couple months ago where the baffles and everything were there, but when I saw my dye, it wasn't going through the gravel. It was actually, there was little pinhole leaks, and I saw it coming out through that main, when it comes into the tank. It's going out right on top of the gravel and out. So, upflow filters, make sure you know what they look like, know what they're supposed to look like, and how they actually are supposed to work. Questions about that? All right. Some people, when they give me the reports, they submit pictures, which is fine. I would really love to have pictures, and I'm sure you guys maybe take pictures. If there's problem areas, you're seeing a problem, or you're writing about a problem on the report, or maybe if it's an upflow filter, you say, hey, it's destroyed. Take a picture of it. That way we can, say, look at it. So if you have problem areas on these things, either it's discharging to the surface, take a picture. That way we can see exactly what it looks like out at the site. If there's any question, we can actually refer to your pictures. So if you have pictures that you want to email, just problem areas, I encourage that. You can either email them to me with your report. Some people scan their reports in, email. Some people fax, so it's going to be a little bit more difficult. But if you have problem areas, and that with email, that saves me from having to call you if I can see exactly what you're talking about on a picture. So, do a lot of people take pictures when they do inspections?
You should.
Yeah.
We do see a lot of service providers getting sued. I mean, that's just the way life is. And if your pictures are there the day you did it, this is what it looked like when I was there. Something changed after the homeowner moved in. Maybe they had a larger family in the previous household. Maybe it was vacant. Whatever the variables are, if you take pictures, man, you're going to cover your butt. So I would recommend you do it if at all possible.
We take pictures. We carry cameras. We do. When you're looking at a tank, you're looking for the outlet baffle, outlet T. Sometimes the outlet's not totally open. It's just one big tank, and it doesn't have a hanging baffle inside of it. Usually you can stick your camera down there, take a picture. The flash is going to light that up. You can see if it's a straight hole, or you can see if there's a clay T, or a concrete baffle that's fallen off. That's what you can see. Or you can actually see, especially some homemade tanks, you may think it's at operating level, but your outlet may be, your water level may be so low that your outlet T's clear up here, you're like, okay, that tank's not watertight. That's the first red flag. You may run 180 gallons of water, and it may never get up to the actual outlet. So cameras are easy. I mean, people have cameras on their phones. They have better, cameras on their phones than they do cameras that we probably use now. So,
ours have a strap, though.
Yes. So if you have a camera, recommend taking pictures, especially problem areas that we can actually see physically when they get emailed to us. Once again, make sure we're filling these things out, as accurate as possible. When we go out to do a reinspection, this is what we see. We see what you have done. I mean, if you don't put something down correctly or look at something wrong, we can only hold you to what you see here. So if you fill these things out correctly, that way, when we go out, we can just confirm or find out that something is not correct. So make sure you fill these things out as thoroughly as possible. Check the boxes you're supposed to check, because that's what we will hold you to if you do or do not check those. I know there's still some questions about pre-77 aerobic treatment units. There was no rules prior to this unit, prior to that, so there's really no standards. We will require a lot of times there's nothing you can really do. There's usually no motors in those, and the tanks are destroyed anyway, so it usually gets to be a new system anyway. But sometimes the tanks are in decent shape, but there's really no components that you can still get today that would work in those. So would require replacement also. But if it is a functioning pre-77, we will require an effluent sample. So we will require that for E. coli counts. That's in our, we went over that last time, but that's all in our code as far as regulations of what we consider what the nuisance code is. As far as bacteria counts in these discharging systems. So if it's above that, then we can either replace it or try to fix it. Most of the time it's probably going to be a replacement because there's no way to really reduce those. So pre-77 aerators, sample them. You guys can sample them. I don't know if we would ever want to get involved with that, but sample them. You can take them. We take ours downtown. E. coli counts is the main thing. Where you sample it from? That's probably the next question you're thinking. You know, do I sample from the end of the pipe 200 feet away? I mean, it may require you to put a sampling box in or sample from the pipe. I mean, it just depends on. There's really no set.
There is,
set
and you know what the concerns will be. You go through 200 foot of pipe, and who knows what you're collecting on the way out. But practically speaking, are you going to put a sample box in for something that's probably going to fail anyhow? Probably not. So, these are another enigma. These are difficult because, as Jason said, prior to 1977, we learned that everybody and their brother manufactured a aeration unit with different specifications, and there were no standards at all that they had to meet the effluent quality. So in 77, effluent standards were put into place, and you finally had to do something to minimum standard. Many of those businesses went out in 1977 because they couldn't make those specifications, or they didn't want to make those specifications. So that's why they're difficult. You have all different variations, again, how well they've been maintained, or maybe they put in some kind of motor in there that really wasn't even manufactured for that device. We see a lot of jet motors going into things that really weren't even made to be agitated the way a jet motor agitates. All different sorts of versions out there. Another thing that complicates matters is you get the aerator, and this is a common thing up in the northeast area of the county. You get the aerators from old aerators that go through 100 or 200 square foot filter bed. Some of you have run across those. If that person has not operated that aerator in years, you know what that filter bed now looks like. So pretty much at that point, dropping a motor in isn't even an option anymore. You've destroyed your filter bed, and now it's a replacement. So that filter bed was an integral part of that polishing of the effluent when it came out at that time. But it's not going to work anymore. So if you have a question about one before you run off and sample, I'd encourage you to call before. Let's talk about the circumstances if you get into a weird one like that. There are some, however, that still function, surprisingly enough, and they've been maintained. So you may find one or two that work now and again, but many of the old ones don't, or something's been done to them.
All right, I just want to reiterate, I think a majority of us are all on the same page here. Typically, everybody has an email address, and I have an email address for mostly everybody. There's a few people I don't, which then I just fax to whoever they have as the contact person, email results to, or fax results to. I do that. But if you email them to me, typically I will email them right back to you. I'll email to the inspector. It's the inspector's responsibility to distribute to the 6 realtors that are involved, the homeowners, whatever. There's a lot of people involved. So I'm going to email to you guys, then you guys take care of it from there. If a realtor would call me, saying, hey, I haven't received it from somebody, it's all public record, so I will email those realtors if anybody requests it. Email the realtor, the buyer, seller, whoever. If it's to me, it's public record, I will email that out to whoever needs it. Questions on that? Now, if you change your email address, let me know. If you get an email address, let me know so I can scan it in, and that way I scan everything in anyway. But that way I can just email to you, and it's a lot easier for me than having to fax. Yeah, the more feedback you give me, I take it in consideration and change it if we think it. I don't want to make this 5 pages long. I think 4 pages is enough. I've squeezed as much as I can in here. The front page, I did not change really much of anything. I maybe straightened some stuff up there, but really the front page pretty much stayed pretty much the same as it has always been. Once again, sewer available, is it connected to sewer, so on and so forth. You guys know all that. Second page, there was some major changes here. To give me some more room, I changed the title. It used to be as large as the first page. I shrunk that down. But system digest values, I did change the outlet T baffle inspection. It was up there beside the distribution diversion boxes. I moved it down. But the diversion box, I now added NA, because there's a lot of times, I know a lot of guys write it in. Sometimes you get discharging systems that don't have these boxes. So just that way you guys can just circle. I tried to make it so you guys can just circle things versus having to write a lot of stuff. So system probe, make sure we're probing. It's hard for us to do the inspections too. We go through the probing too, and it's just hard sometimes to probe down. Do the best you can in probing.